Why hello there! Have you spent a long time hearing about the Percy Jackson series? Have you heard about Riordan and the books that he keeps releasing that everyone says are really good? Have you wanted to read these books for ages, but then when you come around to it, it's been like this? There's so many, I don't even know where to begin. And not known what to do? Well, don't you worry. I'm here. I read the Percy Jackson series, the first one, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, for the first time last year, ever in my life. Ever. And as you can imagine, I was very intimidated by this. I get under pressure very easily, and when there's a massive book series that looks at me, I'm like, I don't want to go near it. Game of Thrones. So I didn't know what to do about Percy Jackson. I was like, there was just so many, and I know there's this original series, but there's other series, and I didn't know how they tied in. What is Thor got to do with Percy Jackson? He's about Greeks. Why is there Hammer of Thor as a title of a book? I don't know what's going on. But I figured it out. I've got a list. I've got different ways that you can read this series, and I'm going to share it with you to help you, because it is truly a wonderful, magical world full of incredible writing and humour, and you get to grow with the characters and grow with Rick's writing, and it's just a wonderful experience with wonderful characters. And if you've ever seen the film, don't trust the films. The films were awful. We don't listen to them. We don't like her. She's not welcome here. But if you listen to the musical, I've been wearing my musical top. That's fantastic. Her we do like. So don't let the films put you off. It's a wonderful story and a wonderful series and franchise, and I'm going to share with you how to read it. So the first way you can read these books is in chronological order. So chronological events of how the story works. So the first one that you need for that is The Diary of Luke Castellan, which is a short story. It's all about Luke, who is a character in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, and kind of what happened to him before arriving at Camp Half-Blood. So if you want to go chronologically, that's the first one to start with. Then you have the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, The Lightning Thief, The Sea of Monsters, The Titan's Curse, The Battle of the Labyrinth. And then just before you read the last Olympian, which is the last book in that series, you have Percy Jackson and the Demigod Files. And then you read Percy Jackson and The Last Olympian. There's also graphic novels for those, so obviously you can read the graphic novels as and when you finish each individual book to go with that graphic novel. Then after Last Olympian, we have Percy Jackson and the Singer of Apollo, which is a short story which fits in between them. Then we have the Heroes of Olympus series. So we have Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero. Then we have the Heroes of Olympus Demigod Diaries, which is also a series of short stories. This has the Diary of Luke Castellan in it, but you can just go into this and pick that out and just read that one at the beginning, like I said before. Then we have the Heroes of Olympus, The Son of Neptune, Heroes of Olympus, Mark of Athena, Heroes of Olympus, House of Hades. This book ruined my life, oh my god. And Heroes of Olympus, The Blood of Olympus. Which brings us on nicely to the Kane Chronicles. I don't own the Kane Chronicles yet. I haven't read those ones yet, so I don't own them, but there we go. So we have the Red Pyramid, the Throne of Fire, and the Serpent's Shadow. Then we have Demigods and Magicians, which is a crossover between the Percy Jackson world and the Heroes of Olympus world and the Kane Chronicles world. Then we have the Magnus Chase series and Trials of Apollo series that are kind of working alongside each other at the same time. So the Magnus Chase ones consist of the Sword of Summer, the Hammer of Thor, and the Ship of the Dead. Then there's 9 from the 9 Worlds, which is a series of short stories from the Magnus Chase universe. Then for Trials of Apollo, we have The Hidden Oracle, The Dark Prophecy, The Burning Maze, and the last one, which is The Tyrant's Tomb, which comes out in September. Then, of course, there are the extra little other ones as well that we have, for example, Camp Half-Blood Confidential, Hotel Valhalla, which is the guide to the Norse world, the Kane Chronicles Survival Guide, and of course Percy Jackson and the Greek Gods and Percy Jackson and the Greek Heroes. I would probably say use your sense of, okay, so I'm on this particular series, so I can read the Percy Jackson and these ones series, so I can read Percy Jackson and the Greek Gods and Percy Jackson and the Greek Heroes because I know that universe. And obviously with Camp Valhalla, read the Magnus Chase ones as well as that one, so I wouldn't like go into the bonus books before you've read the series, because then it like helps you. You can also read them alongside, so that's another thing you could do. So for example, the like guide, like Kane Chronicles survival guide, there will be things that are kind of mentioned that are spoilery, so just read them, make sure you know the world and they're not going to spoil you massively when you read them. Another way you can read them is exactly the same way that I just said, but read the Magnus Chase and Trials of Apollo ones sort of simultaneously. That sort of runs more along the lines of how they were released. For example, Hammer of Thor, for example, the Sword of Summer, then the Hidden Oracle, then the Hammer of Thor, so on and so on. The way that I've been reading them personally, which is another way that I think works, and I've checked this with my friend who's read every single one of them, I'm still currently like halfway through the books, so I checked this with my friend, she's read every single one of them, and she said this is also a legit way you can do it, and she helped me a little bit. So obviously the only one that I am waiting for is like the next Trials of Apollo book, and that's it. All the other ones are out. So I read it as Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and then I read Percy Jackson Greek Gods, Percy Jackson Greek Heroes, and I read, what is it called? Where is it? The Demigod Files. Then I've read the Heroes of Olympus series, and I've read the sort of mini books to go along with that. For example, the Demigod Diaries. Then once I finished those, she said it was okay to then read like all the Trials of Apollo ones, because basically I wanted to slowly ease myself out of Percy's world, and he's not really in the Trials of Apollo series a lot, so I thought if I go into that, it's still the Greek universe. Then Magnus Chase, then Kane Chronicles, because Kane Chronicles is very separate apparently. So that's the way I was going to do it, but now I'm going to do it in the sense that because I know how much kind of Trials of Apollo and Magnus Chase run alongside each other, I think I'm either going to read it so I read like the first book and then the first Magnus Chase book and then the second Trials of Apollo book, then the first Magnus Chase, etc, etc, or I'm going to read all of the Magnus Chase books and then the Trials of Apollo books for then it to then fit in very nicely for when the next Trials of Apollo book comes out. You could also read like the whole of the Percy Jackson series and then the extra books of that series and then the whole of the Heroes of Olympus and the extra books of that series if you want to. Does that make sense? I hope it does. It can get really confusing when you have so many books that fit into kind of like a world. I know a lot of people get kind of a bit stressed about it with Shadowhunters. I might do an updated Shadowhunters one as well, because I did do one, but it was like 2016. There's been more books since then. But genuinely, the Percy Jackson universe and Riordans' entire series, like books and universe, is so good and so funny and such an interesting take on Greek myths and legends, and obviously Norse myths and legends and Egyptian myths and legends, which I'm interested in all of those things. And I just like the way he takes the stories and spins them and has his own take on them. And I've had loads of people, since I've been talking about starting them and when I spoke about seeing the show, like the musical, people are like, I really want to read them, but like I don't know where to begin, like it gets really complicated like as it goes on. So I just wanted to share this with you to help clear that up and kind of give you more of a structure of how to read it, because that's how I function as a reader. I like having that structure and knowing what's next rather than feeling really intimidated. It just depends on what you want to do, but I hope this gave you some options for what you can read and how to read them. If you guys are new here, then I make videos a couple of times a week about books and fandomy things, so if you'd like to stick around and join us, then you can do that. And as usual, all the links to all my other social medias will be in the description below. I'd love for you to come and check out my website, because I've kind of relaunched it and I'm posting on it pretty regularly. So if there's any website posts you'd like to see, any blog posts you'd like to see up there, please do let me know and go and pay a visit. My website is renontheroad.com and it will be in the description as well. I hope you guys are doing really, 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 really well, and I will see you next time. Bye!